Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today we are diving into the book you wish your parents had read. Written by psychotherapist Philippa Perry, I gotta tell you, this is definitely not your typical parenting manual. If you're coming here looking for rigid sleep training schedules, consequence charts, or some quick behavioral hacks to get your kid to just sit still, you're absolutely in the wrong place. Perry offers a totally paradigm-shifting approach. She argues that great parenting isn't a set of tricks at all. It's entirely rooted in the quality of the relationship you build. It's way less about fixing your children and actually much more about understanding yourself.
Okay, before we get into the actual mechanics of her framework, I want you to take a second and speak directly to your own inner child. Ask yourself this: what did your parents do that you swore you'd never do? Maybe they totally dismissed you when you were sad, or maybe they yelled the second they got stressed, or maybe they just demanded absolute perfection all the time. Have you ever caught yourself doing that exact same thing to your own kid, or even in your adult relationships despite your absolute best intentions? Well, your answer to that question leads straight to the core thesis of this explainer. The relationship we have with our children is fundamentally shaped by the relationship we had with our parents.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the myth of perfect parenting and moving from control to connection. So Perry completely rejects this whole binary idea of the good parent versus the bad parent. It's a total trap. The second we label ourselves or other people with these rigid tags, we just get defensive. We start performing for the outside world instead of actually connecting with the very real child standing right in front of us. To see what this shift looks like in practice, we have to look at how we manage behavior. The old school method of parenting, it's all about managing the child. And let's be real, it is exhausting. It focuses heavily on behavior modification, bribes, timeouts, and rigid routines. It basically asks, how do I make this kid comply? But the Perry method asks a totally different question. It focuses on managing yourself. She asserts that the real lever for change in any family dynamic is the adult's own emotional awareness. We spend so much energy trying to control our kids' behavior, when the only thing we actually have control over is our own emotional state and how we react. Which brings us to Section 2. Your own childhood ghosts and the unseen baggage we all carry around. The reality is, your childhood absolutely follows you into parenting. It's literally in the room with you right now, shaping your automatic reactions whenever you're under stress. If we don't unpack this baggage, we just end up repeating the exact cycles we desperately wanted to break. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept of ghosts in the nursery. This is a psychological term describing those moments when your child behaves in a way that triggers an explosive, completely disproportionate reaction from you. The secret here, your reaction rarely has anything to do with your kid. It's a ghost from your past. So, for example, if you were heavily shamed or punished for crying as a toddler, your own toddler's crying is going to trigger deep, super uncomfortable anger in you. You aren't actually reacting to your kid's present reality. You're reacting to your own unresolved childhood wound. So, how do we exercise these ghosts? I want to ask you, what is a minor thing your kid, or maybe a kid you know, does that just makes you instantly lose your mind? Is it spilling a drink? Being too loud? Once you identify what that is, you can follow these steps. First, just notice that your reaction is disproportionate. A spilled cup of milk doesn't warrant a screaming match, right? Second, trace that feeling back. Were you yelled at for making messes when you were little? And finally, separate the two. Take a breath and respond to your child's present need, not your past trauma. Moving right along to Section 3, the power of repair, which is basically the anti-perfection anthem. Perry gives you absolute certainty on one thing: you will mess up. No way around it. You will lose your patience, you will yell, you will totally misunderstand your kid. And those ghosts we just talked about, they will occasionally get the better of you. But the magic is in the repair. All relationships have conflicts and misunderstandings. Perry calls these ruptures. Rupturing a bond is not fatal to a child's emotional development, but leaving it broken, that is. Pretending it didn't happen, or pulling rank and demanding respect just because you're the parent, that creates lasting damage. So, how do we actually fix a rupture? We follow a few key steps. First things first, we have to let go of this illusion of being a perfect, infallible authority figure. You have to acknowledge you messed up. You have to apologize explicitly, and yes, even to a 2-year-old toddler. Saying out loud, "I am so sorry I yelled, I was feeling very stressed, but it was not your fault," is incredibly powerful. By modeling that accountability and showing that a broken connection can be safely rebuilt, you are teaching your children emotional resilience far better than if you had just been perfectly calm the entire time. Up next is Section 4, validating without fixing, embracing the full spectrum of emotions.
Once we understand how to repair things, we really have to look at the daily practicalities of handling a child's heavy emotions, because kids experience a wild spectrum of feelings every single day. We're talking everything from deep sorrow over a broken plastic toy to completely irrational anger because their sandwich was cut into squares instead of triangles. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Perry sums up the goal for navigating these wild emotions. She says we need to be feeling with rather than dealing with. When a child is melting down, our adult instinct is to just deal with it. We want to shut it down, manage it, or argue with the logic. But children just want to be felt with. We need to act as a safe container for their feelings, not an adversary to their logic. It doesn't matter if crying over a square sandwich makes literally no sense to you. The anger they're feeling in their body is 100% real to them.
And this brings us to a major pitfall modern parents face. On one hand, we have distraction. When a kid is sad, we naturally just want to fix it. We say, don't cry, it's fine, oh, look, a squirrel. We minimize the feeling to make ourselves more comfortable. But the harm here is that distraction trains kids to suppress their emotions, and that can lead to much larger mental health struggles down the road. The Perry method, on the other hand, is validation. You accept the mood and you name the feeling. You say you are really frustrated right now because you wanted the ice cream, right? Let them feel heard. Because unvalidated feelings get repressed, but validated feelings get processed. All right, section 5. Behavior is just communication, looking beneath the surface. So if we aren't supposed to shut down bad moods, what do we do when those moods turn into bad actions? When a child acts out, whether it's throwing toys or completely refusing to put on their shoes, we so often label it attention-seeking behavior. We assume they're just trying to manipulate us. But Perry argues they're actually expressing a baseline lack of connection. Defiance is usually just a clumsy cry for connection. To a child, getting yelled at, which is negative attention, is still highly preferable to receiving no attention at all. So the crucial point here is that we should look skeptically at traditional punishments like timeouts or reward charts. Instead of dictating rules from on high, we really need to collaborate. And yes, kids absolutely need boundaries, for sure, but those boundaries must be delivered with warmth and empathy, not shame and isolation. Ask yourself, what is the child actually trying to express through this messy behavior? And speaking of connection, Perry offers a fierce, unmistakable critique of modern parenting that I think we all really need to hear. Put down the phone. If a child is acting out because they crave attention and our faces are constantly illuminated by a screen, we are failing them at a baseline level. Children copy the authentic presence they see. If they see us distracted, checked out, and prioritizing a device over their company, they internalize that lack of connection. We absolutely have to be present in the room. And let's move to and see how this builds into our final summary cheat sheet. In every single interaction, you have a choice. You can rely on the old way, managing the child's behavior, acting as the perfect authority who never cracks, and quickly suppressing bad moods just to keep the peace. Or you can embrace the Perry way. Manage your own triggers first. Prioritize repairing the bond when you inevitably lose your temper. And validate all feelings, letting your child actually experience the full spectrum of their emotions so they can learn how to process them. To wrap this explainer up, I want to leave you with a really provocative thought from psychoanalyst Adam Phillips, which Perry highlights in her work. Do we place too much pressure on our kids to be happy? In our modern obsession with performance, do we demand that our children always have a smile on their face, inadvertently forcing them to hide their true struggles from us? True emotional resilience isn't about always being happy. It's about knowing you are safe and loved even when you are sad, angry, or messy. If this explainer shifted your perspective today, subscribe so you don't miss an episode.